Good morning. Welcome everyone. This is the Publications Office, as you can see. Open Data Portal. This is Paola Pepe speaking. And
good morning. My name is Sam Steuer. I'm also from the Open Data Portal.
And we will host this webinar in order to help participants through the Datathon understand better the use, how they can use EU open data for web applications and websites. You can participate to the Datathon, which will take place on 16th of November in Brussels. Registration closed on Sunday, this Sunday, so you still have time to register and participate and send your proposal. The purpose today is to explain some datasets available on the EU Open Data Portal and help people understand how to find them in the website. Just some technicalities. You don't have to attend the 2 hours because we understand you might be busy. So this webinar will be recorded and you will get the link. It will be uploaded on the Datathon site in the next days. There is also the possibility to be interactive, so you can, you will not be able to speak unless you are a speaker, and but you can raise your hand or use the chat box as Simon is doing, and you can send a message, a question, a technical problem you can tell us about, no problem. We will read and interact with you. The PowerPoint presentations will also be sent to you, and they will be uploaded in the next days, even tomorrow, on the Datathon website, which you see. Yeah, we can show you the Datathon website. We can show you the tab where the. Yeah, so you will all be muted, and everyone can read your messages, or you can write in private to us. If you have a question which might interest everyone, please do not hesitate to share. So we can start with the first question, which is, where can you find open data from the European Union institutions? And I give the floor to Simon to explain.
Good morning, everybody. I want to show you a little bit about the EU Open Data Portal, in case you didn't know. Here we are on our homepage with many information, but for you, maybe the most interesting one is the Data tab, where you can see the data sets which you can use for the event. You can search for different publishers, you can search for different topics, here for tendering, for public contracts, anything you want. So, for a little inspiration, I would also recommend you the Applications tab, where you can find data sets which are used from the EU Open Data Portal, and they built in an application, web application, mobile application. And here you can see there are a lot with many different topics, and feel free to explore them and also to get some ideas what you can do. What is really interesting for you as a developer are the 2 next tabs. It's Linked Data and the Developer's Corner. In the Linked Data tab, you can sparkle our endpoint, and you can call the metadata from our datasets. Here are also some examples how to use the Sparkle endpoint. And last but not least, the Developer's Corner, where you can call our REST API and call the dataset directly in your application. This can really help you if you want to make it an interactive application. All the documentation is in the tab. If you have more questions, please write us a message. And now back to the Datathon. On basically everything you need to know is on our homepage. And I just want to remind you, as Paula said, 8th of October is the deadline for team registration with your proposal. And 1 week later, we will notify the shortlisted teams. And then you have time, nearly a month, to develop your app. Here you can find the first webinar. If you didn't attend it, you can watch it. You can see the different time slots. and also for the second one. And here will also be the PowerPoint from today's presentation. Please feel also free to register for the final event in Brussels.
Which is free?
Which is free, yes. And for the app registration, you don't need to know everything from the beginning. We just want to know a short description, what is the challenge, how do you present the data, and how want you develop the idea further. So it's just a one-pager, but it should give us an idea what you want to do, so that we can shortlist you. That's basically from our side.
Do you have questions about the Open Data Portal? If there are any questions, you can write.
Not going to go to John Walsh.
Okay, otherwise, we can already start with the first speaker. First guest speaker of today is connecting from Brussels, and it's the EU Commission DG REGIO, and he will talk about regional and urban data. We give the floor to Mr. John Walsh. John, are you there? Should be there. The program today is very full, so after DG REGIO, maybe there are technical issues, we will see. We will have a presentation on EUR-Lex, and then we will have the Transparency Register by the Secretariat General, TED, Tenders Electronic Daily, and the OP portal, also managed by the European the Publications Office of the EU, and CORDIS. So,
should we start maybe with John?
Yeah. Okay. No. People are connected. Okay, he's ready. We see.
No.
No?
Ah.
John is connecting.
John, did you call in via phone? Because we can't hear you yet.
We cannot sit here. We hear you speaking, but
no.
Sorry for the others, we are just waiting. What? Technicalities are always an issue.
Okay, let's start with
Jean-Philippe. Okay, So we move on to the program, waiting for John to connect with the phone, and we don't do anything.
Hello.
Oh, there.
Perfect.
John,
Hello,
is that you?
It's John. It's John Welsh here. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So the floor is yours.
I was listening to you, but it was very frustrating. I could not actually. You could not hear me for some reason. I've redialed. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is John Welsh in DG Regional Policy. I would like to share with you. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can see.
Excellent. Okay. We're very grateful to the Publications Office and to the Open Data Portal for this opportunity to quickly present some of the very, very large investments that are planned and are taking place under the European budget, under the European Regional Development Fund, the European Social Fund, and the Cohesion Fund. These are three large funding programs supporting European investment, and they account for almost 1/3, slightly more than 1/3 of the budget of the European budget. So they're very, very significant. You see, we're on Twitter, Regio Evaluation. We run the ESIF Open Data Platform. You see our hashtag there. I'm just trying to get my slides to respond. Here we go. And the question that we're trying to address, and we need some help with this, is what are the specific themes that these three funds really support with this very big budget of 350 billion euros of European taxpayers' money. Now, what do we mean by really support? Well, on our open data platform, we use these headings, what we call thematic objectives or broad themes, to show the different sectors, the different objectives that the funds are investing in. The dark blue is the EUR-DF. You see that the EUR-DF invests heavily in the competitiveness of SMEs. They drive job creation, they drive growth and productivity. Nearly 50 billion euros is invested in the competitiveness of SMEs. In environment protection and resource efficiency, we invest in clean water, wastewater treatment, risk prevention, and you see also the Cohesion Fund invests heavily in these areas. And you see the other themes. These themes are actually quite broad, as you can imagine. Social inclusion can cover many different types of social inclusion. Here, the Social Fund dominates. And then education and training can also cover many different types of support and infrastructure. Now, we actually have much more detailed information on the funds, on these three funds, which we call the categorization data. It's very rich. I'll show you the data set in a moment. It covers over 350 programs at national and regional level. The data, the financial data, is both the EU budget share and the total cost. And it's for both, it covers both the volume of projects that are planned, the volume of projects that are selected, the real projects, if you like, that are being selected, and the expenditure within those projects. And we have very detailed thematic information that I will come back to in a minute. I'm going to focus on this thematic information. We call it the intervention field codes, but there are also other dimensions in the data, such as the form of finance. Is it a grant? Is it a loan? Is it a venture capital stake? Even economic sectors, human health, transport equipment, services, and also even the location. So it's very rich information. Here are the links to the data sets. They will be in the slides, and the colleagues on the Open Data portal will share these links, and I'll show them to you in 1 minute. There were a couple of questions that the colleagues gave me to address. Why is the data important? Well, it's the scale, the issue. This is 1/3 of the EU budget. It's important for us because it's a wealth of information on themes, all sorts of themes: social inclusion, energy, environment, transport, innovation. All of these are covered. And it has this level of detail, not only on the plans, but on the executed investments. What could the data set reveal? Can it be combined with other data and new technologies? Well, one of the fundamental things you can do with this information is compare progress in investments, for instance, in different forms of energy, renewable energy investments. What is the scale of investments in wind, in solar, in other forms of renewable energies? Or if you want to think of it from the beneficiary's point of view, does the program in my region still have money available to support the types of investments I want to make in renewable energies? So is there still money available in the programs? The other interesting aspect here is that the categories, the individual codes, can also be used to address cross-cutting themes, such as climate change. There are many different investments that can contribute to climate tracking, climate action, the tracking of investment in climate actions. There are many different codes for SME support. I'll show you just a few in a minute. How is the data generated? As I said, the data comes from all of these national and regional programs, so it's really quite detailed. You could also, using the data, show a profile of the investments taking place in most of the regions of Europe where there are regional programs. The data on this at this level of detail is reported to the Commission annually, and we're planning to update the data set on an annual basis and refresh it regularly in case there are changes in the plans or changes in the implementation of the investments. The data is complex. What could be improved in the data set? Well, it's extremely hard to read in its raw form. We really would love to have a powerful filtering tool, an intuitive filtering tool. The data set is on our platform and it's API enabled, so people can freely build apps on top of the data. We take charge of the data refresh and quality. What we think we really need is in these intuitive filtering tools, graphic comparisons, and I would like briefly to show you some examples from the data set and just take you on a quick tour of the data set. This is a version of the data set I've downloaded. This only covers one fund, just for the sake of saving a little bit of memory. And I just show you that the data set is, for this EUR-DF, is more than 25,000 lines. The first number of columns capture information on the member state, the program. This is a list of the programs from across the EU: Spain, Germany, Belgium, Romania, all of the different 28 member states. It also has information on funds. There are other funds in the data set, and it also has information on the thematic area. These are the short list that I showed you initially. The data then also has this very rich coding system. Here I've just filtered the intervention fields, but you also have the location information. You have economic dimension, the secondary themes for the ESF, the form of finance, and then you also have the specific dimension codes. Then the financial information, you have both the planned, the selected So you see here's a planned amount of investment in this particular field, research and innovation processes and large enterprises. Here's how much of it has been actually allocated to selected operations in terms of the total cost. This is total cost. And then the expenditure, you see that it has not yet been registered as spent or invested. So there's a plan to invest this money out of this budget. And then the other element, you can see it color-coded. This is the total cost. You also have then the EU budget share, so the contribution from the budget funded by the European taxpayers. I mentioned the 23 fields. I would like to wrap up and take some of your questions. Here's a list of the 23 fields. You see it's just at this stage, it's in the natural order. You see the renewable energy codes. You see transport. You see environment codes. You see social infrastructure. There are also codes for the social fund here later on. I show you these codes that I've just highlighted in this way. You see the codes for ESF, the key ESF activities. So these are the 123 thematic codes. It's a very rich data set. You can do different things with it. Here I am looking at the balance of investments across renewable energy themes. And you can see that here I've just picked out some of them. This is one attempt to try and graph the EU average rate of investment is basically even between biomass, solar energy, and other forms such as hydro and geothermal energy, with a relatively low share in this very vertical, this axis, this vertical axis, a very low share for renewable wind. But you see, member states have different profiles. The blue in this case is Slovakia. It has a higher share for solar energy. This is just the planned amounts. You can also look, as I tried to explain, you can also look to the rate of progress. Here is my attempt to pivot and analyze the rate of progress in the allocation of support to what we call generic SME investment, so non-specific SME investment. And you see a number of member states. This is at member state level. This analysis could also be done by program within a member state. And you can see that these member states here have got close to 100%, even slightly more for Sweden, close to 100% allocation of the planned budget to this form of support. There's a potential audience for this data. It's extremely rich. There are thousands of national and regional authorities that would be interested in comparing their performance and trying to find partners that are investing in these fields. There are EU policymakers. There are lots of stakeholders. NGOs are interested in specific themes. Researchers are always, consultants and students are asking us for this type of information, and citizens. It's extremely difficult to access. This is our challenge, and this is what we're offering to the group, and hoping that somebody will take up the challenge. Very happy to answer questions. The direct link to the data set is here. We have an example from the JRC that has used the planned amounts in the past. We have other data sets that can be combined to do the cross-cutting analysis. I should stop. I think I may have taken enough time. I hope that I have been able to communicate why this data might be interesting for investment and growth.
Thank you, John. You still have time, so you have 5 minutes. If you want to add anything, just take your time.
Was I hope I wasn't too quick going through it. Are there any questions that people have? and I'm just trying to get back into the chat site.
Okay. The chat is open if you want to send a question. I really liked the question you asked yourself, actually, if what is the impact of what the dataset could reveal when
Yes.
when they are combined. I really like that because it gives really ideas to more discussion later.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a slide on that.
I mean, we have, to give you an example of the kinds of questions we get, I mentioned climate change. There is a political commitment by the European Commission and the European Parliament and Council that more than 20% of the European budget should support climate action to combat and adapt to climate change. Now, this is a cross-cutting challenge which involves investment in clean public transport, in risk prevention, in renewable energies and energy efficiency. And so we can analyze the EUR-DF and the Social Fund and Cohesion Fund budgets using this categorization system. So it's a very interesting, and from this data, we can track whether the member states are selecting the projects and delivering the expenditure in those fields. So it's a really interesting challenge, and we really hope that somebody would take up this challenge.
Yeah. Did you? Of course, you show the contact points in case people want to ask more detailed questions, etc.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And do you have already an idea, besides the challenge, of which kind of applications could be developed? If you had to do it, how would you reuse your own data?
What ideally we would, I think different applications could be developed in the following sense. You could have an app that presents investments taking place in my country or in my region. You could ask the app, how much are we investing in SMEs, and is this money reaching the SMEs by querying this data, and even developing benchmarks for those types of investments at national level or even a European benchmark. Is my program performing? If I live in Rhône-Alpes in France, is my program performing as well as the program from Île-de-France? So you could have perhaps a comparative app, or you could have a thematic app which drills down and asks the question, what is being invested in renewable energies? Which types of renewable energies are being invested? How much is being invested? What is the rate of implementation of this investment? So from using this data in Excel, these are manual. We do it on a manual basis. It's not so intelligent because repeating it takes that effort. So we're also looking at ways of trying to query it with internal tools. But from what we see from the apps that have been developed, and this data now is public, we really believe that if somebody applies some more modern technologies to this, it could be very quickly filtered in a much more intuitive way.
You gave a lot of ideas, so thank you. Thank you, because I think participants take notes and get back to you and participate to this.
Absolutely. Our Twitter address is there, and we're delighted to explain further.
Great.
I just want to add one important thing which John mentioned. He said you can combine it with different data sets, and one of the rules of the Datathon is to use at least one data set from the EU Open Data Portal. So maybe you can use the data set from John Walsh, combine it with different data from the United Nations, from your member states. It depends on what you find, what is interesting, and really generate a new application which helps people to find new insights. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Stay with us. Thank you. And now we pass the floor back to the publications office. As you can see, our colleague has joined us, and she's Valentina Prato. She will explain how to use EUR-Lex, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Paola. So I will give you a quick overview of EUR-Lex in the next 10 minutes. And I don't have PowerPoint, but just I will show directly on the website directly what you can find and how can you find EU law. So when you come to EU law, you think of EUR-Lex. And what we mean by EU law, you can see here on the horizontal menu on the top, different collection of EU laws from treaties, legislation, of course, consolidated acts, case law, international agreements, etc., etc. Now, there are different ways to search. I will show you now how to search, and then I will show you quickly what you find in the document and give you some ideas how can reuse this information for your Datathon. So you have a search, a quick search, which works like any quick search like Google. For example, you can type any topics. If I type a very broad topic like copyright, you will have lots of results. And then you have the possibility to narrow down your results by using the filters on the left side by different criteria. So this will help you to find what you're looking for. If you have more precise idea of what you want to looking for, then you can use the advanced search. You will find it here, but also on the top right part of the screen, but I will use it here. So what is interesting here that this search is very dynamic. It's completely dynamic. It depends on the collection you're looking for. So if you work on case law, you can search by criteria. They are typical of Court of Justice. You have, for example, the name of the judges, the name of advocate generals, the type of procedures. These criteria will not apply to other collection. For international agreements, you find what kind of agreements you can look for with non-member states or international agreements. You can combine really different criteria. It's very powerful to have precise results. What I want to show, if you know exactly the reference of your documents, how I'm doing now, you can use this widget. Now, we have an example, and I choose a directive. I choose a directive in my example because the directive has a long, it's a type of act which leaves the member states to implement the objectives set by the European Union in the directive. So this is a long life connection to national law. So I'll look for this directive to show you that you will not get as a result only the directive itself. So you will have the directive. You have the possibility also to have in 3 different languages at the same time if you wish to have comparison, linguistic comparison. But what is interesting, so this document, there was an analysis which has been carried out. And from this legal analysis, key information has been extracted for you, and it's here. You have, for example, different dates related to this document. You have the information, like the author, the form, impact on the European Economic Area. You have relation to other documents of the EU law. For example, delegated acts based on this document, documents mentioned in this document. You see also relation in terms of modification. This directive has amended others and was amended in turn by other legislative acts. You can see also interpretation by the Court of Justice. So all this information could trigger, I mean, one graphic to see all this information in one click or in one look. You can also see how this acts, what is the life since it was proposed by the Commission, which is the institution which has the initiative power, different intervention by the EU institution until the moment has been published and signed. Then you can see how it has been transposed in different member states. And here you have an overview. And you see, for example, for Belgium, there was only one act which needed to transpose within the deadline. So you can see if all the member states have transposed the directive on time, or they were late, so there were problems. You can see, for example, in Latvia, they needed 10 acts to transpose this directive. And then you can see which national act was needed, published, to make this directive into national law. One interesting information for no lawyer is summary of legislation. If you want to know what this directive is about, you can read it through if you wish, or you can have a very quick summary here. It's written in a plain language for no lawyers, linguists. And then you see what it's about the content, yes, quick questions about the content, if it is as amended by other acts. So for one directive, what I wanted to show, you see that you don't have only the text itself, but around one text you have lots of information. You can have the possibility to put it around. Now in EUR-Lex you will find in a list of different information with the hyperlinks for each information. And you also have the possibility, if you are interested in this particular document and would like to know other legislation which is pertinent related to this, you can set up an RSS feed. So you have, for each document, for procedure, the possibility to follow it, to receive a notification via RSS feed. So you have also the possibility to search documents by institutions and bodies. So for example, for the Parliament, you see there are over 1,000 regulations, etc., etc. You have already the summaries of legislation. This is a site within EUR-Lex where you can find a legislation by topic, which is summarized. If you look for a particular topic, you can search EuroVoc. EuroVoc is the multilingual thesaurus, which index also legislation in EUR-Lex, so you can find also by topic, and then the list becomes more granular. So if you want to know legislation, for example, in economic cycle, you can launch the search directly from here. And it depends, of course, you have also the official journal, which is authentic since July 2013 in its electronic version. And we have the official journal since the very first one, so 52. And this is the main way, to give an overview of EUR-Lex, what you can find. It depends on which kind of legislation you are interested in. You can go in one or the other collections. And yeah, if you have any questions, I can answer you.
I have a question. Do you know if EUR-Lex has already been used, well, reused for an application so far, or it's open field to anyone?
No, we know already of cases of reuse. For example, was the copyright directive, which had many links with case law, with other documents, and this was visualized in a graphic, so you can see really in one look just all the relations there in this document. Because the EU law has many dependents. I mean, we have the primary level with the legal basis, which are treaties, when we have secondary legislations, and then we have relation to other acts also of secondary legislation, to case law, and others. So this is, you will find in a vertical line here in EUR-Lex, but can be reused to make it more understandable, to give immediate understanding of all this information that you find on EUR-Lex by clicking many times, but the reuse can give more immediate understanding of the same act or the same topic. I know of other reuse cases, for example, about the number of directives or kind of legislation, a certain topic, which have been issued within a certain time, and by which institutions. That you can also find, because in EUR-Lex you can also find, if I go back to the website, you can also find some statistics. Can I take it? No. You will find also statistics on EUR-Lex about the content.
Okay.
And it is by year and by language.
Yeah.
And you can see other kind of statistics about the user statistics, but also about the kind of legal acts. This is also an interesting information for you.
The kind, the topics, and the...
Not the topics.
Not yet.
The topics you can do, but you have to use EUR-Voc, the multilingual thesaurus, if you want to do it by topics.
Oh, okay.
Here it's about the type of act per each institution.
What about the formats available for the developer who wants to... Everything is on the Open Data Portal. It's downloadable?
Yeah. For the... so currently in EUR-Lex you will find the two formats. The HTML and the PDF, because the PDF is the act which has been published on the official journal, and this is the authentic format,
legal.
Yeah, which has legal value.
Okay.
So it's the PDF. Now know that all the content EUR-Lex is in a repository from the Publications Office, which is called Cellar, and you can access to Cellar to download metadata and documents via an API or via a Spark query, but you have also the possibility to use a web service where you can use you can search using by all the possible metadata available on EUR-Lex. So for reusers, remember there's RSS feed, web service, Spark query, and API. And for this, if you're interested, there is a documentation that we can give it to you how to perform this search using these tools. In case they want to contact the team? For any contact, always use the contact which is on top of the page. We have our help desk here. And it's very effective. You will have very soon an answer.
There's a great team behind, so you can trust.
And one point from my side, what you already mentioned, you have a gigantic resource here with the official journal, and there are not so many applications which there should be. So it's really an interesting starting point if you want to think of also a big topic like transparency, where you can develop an app and really do something good for the citizens out there. So I know it's a lot of data in EUR-Lex, and it's maybe hard to find, but it's worth the effort because you can really get a lot of interesting points.
Right, thank you Valentina, thank you Simon also, and yeah, you mentioned transparency, which is a good lead to the next point, the next speaker. So we thank Valentina for being here. Stay with us. And we go to Brussels again, I guess, and Martin Oritsky, sorry for mispronouncing your name. And we go to the EU Commission Secretariat General, so where things happen also. And they put together this transparency register, and Martin will talk about it. Martin, are you connected?
Yes, indeed, I am. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Very well.
Sorry, is yours.
Thank you very much. So good morning from Brussels too. It is a pleasure to join you for this webinar. Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you for the invitation to join.
Okay, you just need to share your screen if you have something to...
I will indeed do so in a moment. I don't know if I should say it's nice to meet you or good talking to you. It's a bit of a surrealistic experience. Normally I'm used to seeing my audiences. I'm not sure I see all of you, but in any case it is good to talk to you. So I will share my screen by doing this. And then just see if that works. So I am showing the home page of the Transparency Register. Can everyone see this?
Yes, we see it. You can also put it on full screen, maybe?
Just see how to do that. Not sure how to do that immediately. Not sure how to do that immediately. Let's just try with that for the moment.
It's in the view menu. Yeah, full screen. Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
In the browser on the left, there is File and Edit and View. Go to View. You should have probably on the left, on the browser.
Edit.
Yes. No? View, voila.
Full screen, okay. Okay.
Right.
Very well. So I would like to start by saying a few words about the Transparency Register itself as an online tool before I show you what open data we make available on the Open Data portal. So what is the Transparency Register, in fact, and what is its role? Well, it is a database. It is basically a website, and the purpose of the Transparency Register is actually to shed light on who is lobbying the EU institutions, on which issues, on behalf of whom, with what level of financial and human resources. And here we're talking about transparency of the decision-making, policy implementation, policy formulation, processes of the institutions. So the purpose of this Transparency Register, also known as the Lobby Register in the press, is to serve indeed as a go-to point, as a single database which enables the general public and stakeholders to track the activities and why not also the potential influence of lobbyists who operate in Brussels but also beyond Brussels. What data do we make available? Well, it's not an enormous amount of data that we make available. We produce, in fact, data related to the content of the Transparency Register. What does this mean? We have over 11,400 registrants in the register, so these are organizations of all kinds, from professional consultancies to companies to NGOs and to others, and we make available their details on the Open Data portal. So if one goes to search the register and goes to the Open Data portal, from here. One screen down. So we're in the Open Data Portal at the moment, and you will see here that we make available the data related to all registrants in the Transparency Register in both in XML and in Excel format, and we go back with data sets to January 2015. Furthermore, we make available the list of accredited persons for access to the European Parliament. These are basically lobbyists who have a long-term badge to enter the premises of Parliament. There are a few thousand of those as well in the Transparency Register, and that data is available too. So the data actually represents a snapshot of the information stored in the Transparency Register, and it's produced on a daily basis by an automated process. So you can always download the most recent data set here at the top of the page. Now, furthermore, we make other data available, but not in the Open Data Portal, data related to the meetings of our commissioners, cabinet members, and directors general. So the meetings with lobbyists, I should say. And I will show you how that looks like if I go to the website of the First Vice President Timmermans. You see here a list of all the organizations with whom the First Vice President met. You have the date, the location, the organization's name, and the subject that was discussed. So this is the list of lobby meetings, if you like, of our commissioners. And this is available, as I said, for the top echelon of the commission. Now, this data is not really in open data format. It is available, as I'm showing to you, not in a kind of register or in a kind of list, only in the format that I'm showing here on the website. But we do know that even if it is not published in another format, this has not stopped those who are interested to use the data, to use it by doing data scraping and taking the information and putting it in websites like EU Integrity Watch or Lobby Facts in order to produce rankings and classification of the commissioners' lobby meetings. So this is related to the Transparency Register because all this information on organizations is information on organizations which are in the Transparency Register. It is actually a prerequisite for our top bosses in the Commission to meet only lobbyists who are on the Transparency Register. So this is the relationship between the two. Anyway, why is this data important? Why is all the data related to lobbying important, and who are the users? Maybe this deserves a few words. Well, first of all, obviously, public access to documents and open data on all aspects of government work is an essential prerequisite for transparency. Open data actually facilitates scrutiny and ensures accountability. It should not be that the public authorities have a monopoly of information, because how can citizens, how can anyone see what we're doing wrong if they cannot see what we're doing at all? So this is the basic rationale behind being open and transparent about what you do and behind making information available. So we have an idea who are the main users of the data, and it is actually a diverse group of people and of entities. It's students who are writing dissertations about public affairs. It's academics doing research on interest representation. It's journalists writing articles. Stakeholders exploiting the data for their own purposes, especially pro-transparency NGOs. But also colleagues in the institutions are using this data, and ordinary citizens from time to time. What is more difficult to know is the intensity of use. This is not something that we really track. We do have some concrete examples from the transparency watchdogs who are, as I mentioned already, exploiting the data to do data scraping and to create their own parallel websites using our data, which is perfectly fine by us, but it's not something that the Commission would do itself. So these organizations are interested in doing rankings and classifications and comparisons between the levels of resources invested in lobbying, for example, and they try to answer questions such as who are the biggest spenders on lobbying in Brussels and beyond? Is there a balance between corporate and public interest lobbying? Are the lobbies spending more money this year than last year? Which organizations have the most meetings with the Commission elite? Which organizations have the most Parliament lobby passes? They're able to produce all these classifications and comparisons because the data is available to them to use. Maybe I should end by saying what we think could be improved in the data set that I had shown before. I'll just try to go to it again. Just try to see. So you see that the data we make available is not presented in a very visually attractive manner. It's lists of organizations in XML and in Excel format. Obviously, all this is downloadable and reusable, but it's not a very nice way to show it. So that's where we have invested lately some more time together with the colleagues from the publications office to actually offer the data in a more visually attractive manner, in kind of diagrams and charts. This project is at an advanced stage. I cannot yet share the results of it because it's not live what we have produced, but it's something to look forward to in the future. We will present in a more visually appealing manner, as I said, the evolution of registrants over time, the distribution of organizations in Europe, the policies fields followed by them in kind of word clouds and bubbles and maps and diagrams and charts. It is quite a better way to present in addition to these very dry lists. So this is where I think I will end with my quick overview of the Transparency Register and the data that is published in relation to it. And I don't know if there's any chance to hear from any of you or to take up questions, but I'm certainly ready to do so.
Thank you, Martin. While we wait for the questions, are you aware that actually, so what you suggest also is a need to visualize better this kind of data, right? Okay, so ideas for developers, visualization tools, etc. And do you know that in our application tab, there are already some apps using this data, so people can also go there and see, get inspiration, what has been done, what can be improved, or what can still be done. So transparency is really a topic that citizens like and they are interested in, so please keep feeding this register because it's very important in order also to reinforce the trust of citizens in the European institutions. So good work, and yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much. That's indeed our intention.
Martin, one question from my side. Is there one specific topic or one specific question what you say, this is really interesting for a data developer, what he can answer? Because mostly they are not that familiar with the data set. So if you could give them a slight insight, what is really a big question, what is answerable? Do you have something?
A very important use of those data.
To have some very important, what, sorry?
If you have a question which could be answered with a web application or mobile application, if there's anything...
Yeah. any big issue, maybe,
which is untackled right now?
that you know? I mean,
I think the big issue which is untackled is exactly the... Hello? Is exactly the project that we are working on together with the Publications Office, as a matter of fact. This more visually attractive way to present the data, so that
we are seeing your email. You're still sharing the screen, so.
Very well. I'll close this.
All right, we take it. If you have. Yes, so? You were saying?
Let us see what visualizations we will make available as a result of this project, and then see if there's still any gaps in knowledge or in presentation of data that still need to be fulfilled. But there I'm in fact more in your hands, or in the hands of the users, who should tell us what more they would expect from the Transparency Register. I know that the users of the data, especially those with more advanced skills, have produced fantastic resources with the data we make available, and that is very fine with the European Commission. But we don't know actually if citizens would expect something more from us in terms of content and presentation.
Simon has a question.
Martin, can they contact you if they have more questions?
Yes, certainly. I have made my email address available.
Okay.
Perfect, thanks.
Thanks a lot.
So
Thank you then. Good luck, and we will see who is going to use and reuse the data from the Transparency Register. Thank you, Martin. And we go on with the program, and we go back to the Publications Office in Luxembourg. Thank you
very much. Good talking to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks a lot.
And the floor is to Paolo Menon, who is the expert of TED, Open Data, and it's all yours.
Good morning. My name is Paolo, and I'll give you an overview of what you can do with the data of TED. TED, first of all, is the website that publishes public procurement notices from all contracting authorities, from all public administration of the European Union. So all notices that comes from any single administration of Europe, let's say, of the European Union. So we publish notices of a volume of more or less 480,000 per year. So it's quite a lot. Among those, there are 170,000 call for tenders, so business opportunities, if you want to call it that way, that generates more or less 450 billion euro a year, which means the 16% of the GDP of the European Union. So there is quite a lot of interest in the public procurement, and there is a lot of interest in actually finding out how these monies are spent. So in that you can find all these notices, basically call for tenders from countries of the public procurement network, which means EU member states, candidate countries, European Economic Area, like Norway or Liechtenstein or Iceland and Switzerland. You will find also call for tenders from the European institution, of course, and you will find also information on projects that are financed by the bodies that you can read in the slide, like European Investment Bank or the European Central Bank. What do you find in TED as open data? You will find all the notices that we publish on the website in HTML format, in XML format as well, for reuse. To apply to the Commission Decision 2011-833 that you probably know about open data, that lets you reuse any data processed by the Commission for your own interest, for commercial or private use or research use or whatever you want to do. Where can you find this in TED? If I may switch to the website. This is our website. There is a page that actually lets you download the notices in bulk, in daily packages, because we work actually, we publish once a day at 9 o'clock, 5 times a week, the notices that we received in the previous day that are processed and then published. So you can find them in bulk download for the daily editions. Here, of course, only the 1 of October is available, but of course you can scroll through the years. And you can also download monthly packages, so collections of months of the notices. The data available on the website, they go back to 2011, so both daily editions and monthly packages. And if you're interested in knowing more about our data, you can log in also to the FTP at the address ftp//stat.europa.eu with generic credentials, guest. You can find also the daily packages and monthly packages for a different accessibility, let's say, but with data that dates back to 1993. Of course, the format will change of this data according to what was available in the date of publications. But it's a huge amount of data. It's a big database that actually can be exploited to find out actually how monies are spent from public administrations. So if we go back here, there you go. In the website, then in the bulk download page, and then in the FTP at the address you see here with credential guest. The reason why we actually limited the access for registered users, as I said here, is because we are trying to, let's say, avoid any stability problem of the website. Also, as I will tell you later a bit of the usage of the website. If there is an extensive usage by a single user, it will be banned to preserve the stability of the website. So we limit it only for registered users, but we hope to open it to a more extensive usage in the future. So as I said, you can find XML packages of daily, monthly editions from 2011 on the website and in the FTP from 1993. Just to tell you a bit of volume, last month we had a total of 85,000 downloads, mostly on the FTP, through the FTP. So there is a growing and very much interest about the open data of the public procurement, let's say. 85,000 actually was not our best. I think we reached almost 200,000 downloads in a month. But just to tell you that the majority goes through the FTP for a matter of usage. So if you want to dig into public procurement data, we recommend you to look for business opportunities to see how this money is spent by selecting the notices, these kind of notices, design contests, etc., with contract notice, of course. And if you want to see who actually is winning the tenders, you can dig into the contract award notices, which actually will tell you which tenders have been awarded and to whom. Of course, as we have an XML schema, you will need some information on how to treat this data, and you can find them at this address, which concretely can be reached from the website at this link, XML schema information. That will open this page, and there you will see, you will find all the information you need to work on the XML schema. As I said, there are some restrictions to avoid massive usage of the website and the FTP in order to keep the stability. Here I have written some of these restrictions. I won't go through reading it because I think it might be pretty boring, but of course I think you can contact me for any information. Okay, in the slides are available, that's even better. So there are restrictions both for the FTP and for the website. And then again, if you need to contact me, these are my credentials. As I said, there is a constant interest on public procurement data, and you can also find already some other outcome on the web page of the EU Open Data Portal, which actually I believe tenders is one of the main features. It is for downloads. And here you can find also links to the daily page, to the daily edition, sorry. And also you can find a link to data in CSV processed by DG GROW, which is actually the Directorate General in charge of public procurement, where actually they filter and make studies out of the data we publish as well. But you can find already some data in CSV here. Unfortunately, through that website, we can only offer you data in XML, but we are working to extend the formats available. And so not only XML, but this will be available in the future. So I guess this is all from my side. I don't know if you have questions.
Thank you, Paolo. Let's see if there are questions from the public. Otherwise, I have a question because you mentioned at the very beginning that it generates 450 billion euros.
Yes.
To whom? Who are the beneficiaries of this circulation of money? European companies?
Well, I think majority is European companies. Of course, TED is open to companies. Public procurement is open to companies registered in Europe. So the majority is for Europe.
Okay. And then there was a slide about what to look for. I would like to have more information, more details of what is each thing. I mean, we have 3 minutes, so well, a design context. That was, what is a design context, for instance?
Well, actually, these are all the first 4 are contract notices. To say it very simple, they will inform you that there is a call for tender. There will be a call for tender in the future. So whether you need to submit your offers, let's say, and then you will be called when available from the contracting authority, or the contracting authority, they will inform you that in the near future, there will be a call for tenders with some specifications, or it depends on the budget, and then actually you will find, as a company, you can find out what will be programmed in the future. And then, of course, contract notice is the actual call for tender.
Okay, description.
Yes, the description of what the contracting authority is requesting.
Okay, thank you. And as usual, my usual question is, we know, because in the application tab we have already apps which use that information. What is missing? What could be still developed, in your opinion? Visualizations or what?
We are actually, yes, instead as a website, you mean, or in open data?
As open data. How
as
can
open data,
use?
yeah, we are, I know that we are both working on visualization. So a tool that will let you actually see where the majority of public tenders are published. There is a technical issue going on, but this will be available, I believe, in the next month, in a few months. But this is something that probably will be interested, and of course, it will be featured on that website too. Okay. So actually, users will be able to browse for tenders directly through a map, and not only through a search.
Also, visualization of topics, fields of.
It will be probably.
This is what you are doing, but this is not be doing. So what people can develop now.
Looking at the quality of data that we can retrieve now, I think will be more related to where it's published rather than what the type of tenders, at least for the moment.
Okay. So all companies in Europe can apply and participate.
Absolutely, as long as they are registered in Europe.
Okay.
And of course, I didn't mention, but to access to have a tender publishing TED, which is actually legally binding for competitions and transparency, the tenders have to have a certain amount of value and there are thresholds. So it's not that we publish all COFA tenders,
So
but
not the
just the
smallest
one,
one, but the big one.
just the one that goes above the thresholds as it is required by law.
By law. Okay, thank you. Very interesting. We discovered a lot of things. This is also managed here in the publications office.
Absolutely. So. And if you need to contact me,
yes.
just to
show again your contact.
Actually, it's a generic email, but of course it goes back to me. It's this one as well. Where is it? That's publication.europa.eu, or you can send a message through Twitter. Tenders.
Thank you, Paolo. Thanks for being with us today. And we go to another service managed by the Publications Office, right? And I think Jean-Philippe is already connected. We give the floor to Jean-Philippe Florent, manager of the OP portal, and he will tell you what it is. Jean-Philippe.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. And you can see my screen as well?
Yes.
Excellent. All right.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to present briefly the EU law and EU publications collections that you can use to build your apps. So I am Jean-Philippe Florent, web publisher for publications.europa.eu website at the Publications Office. Okay, so I would like to make a brief recap on the data that the Publications Office manages: EU law, EU publications, EU who is who, and EU vocabularies. Then we'll see examples of reusing this data, a brief also overview on how to explore and find the data, because we understand the complexity of the data that we offer, and there are tools to find your way into our data. And finally, the documentation. Okay, here we go. The first data that is managed by the Publications Office and that is directly accessible from both EUR-Lex but also the portal publications.europa.eu is EU law. EU law is the official journal of the EU. The treaties, legislation like regulations, directives, and the case law jurisprudence of the court of the European Court of Justice. It represents roughly 1 million publications, almost 77 million of PDF. EU publications, it's all the official documentation that is published by EU institutions, EU bodies or EU agencies. It can be studies, reports, magazines, brochures, so all the kind of publications that have been published dated back to 1962 already. Then you've got EU vocabularies. These are thesaurus, ontologies, vocabularies like EuroVoc, for those who know, that are used to structure and tag the publications. And finally, the Who is Who collection, EU officials. It's the official directory of all EU officials working for the EU institutions, but also commissioners, European members of parliament. So in total, you've got a common repository of roughly 30 million documents in PDF, in EPUB, in HTML, XHTML, and in more than 80 languages. So we understand that it's a huge amount of data. Now let's see how we can reuse, and I'm going to show you very briefly some examples of interesting reuse, but of course the possibilities are almost endless. So let's say that I want to show in a dynamic and user-friendly way the actions for failure of a member state to fulfill its obligations. It means that when a member state, a European state, has not fulfilled its obligation, has not implemented, for instance, a directive in due time, the Commission can bring this member state to the European Court of Justice and it can be condemned. So this is a figure that I've transposed with Excel, but that could be dynamically built with a SPARQL query on the EU law collection, and it shows the member states between 2006 and 2012 who have failed, who have been condemned by the Court of Justice to fulfill their obligations. That collection is EU law. All right, a second use case would be the top 30 of the most used EuroVoc terms that are used to tag EU law and EU publications collections. Again, this is a real example. It comes from our database. It shows you what are the most used EuroVoc terms into all the publications that we have in both collections, EU law and EU publications. The figures that you see close to the label is not the number of publications, it's only the code, the value of the EuroVoc term. Again, that graph could be built dynamically through our data visualization tools. Okay, this is another example. I think that could be also of interest for the EU citizens. Look, this graph, you see the main EU law pieces as of 1962, and you can very directly see where was the workload, the main workload in the legislative workflow. And the graph also shows you the different type of EU law pieces. It can be recommendation, resolution, directive, decisions, and regulations since 1952. Sorry. And again, the collection targeted here is EU law. Okay, last example from the Who is Who collection. It's the number of membership by what they represent. Okay, I'm going first to show you the graph and explain a little bit. It's an example where all the people in the Who is Who collection are represented by what they represent. It can be the country where they come from, in the case of the commissioners and MEPs. It can be the political group, but it can be as well the institution in which they work. So you see the main representations, if we can say. This example is pretty nice because I'm going here. Because it's done dynamically. It has been built by a colleague from Who's Who. I'm a little bit lost because I cannot see the upside of my screen. Okay, here we go. It restarts. This is the demo effect, of course. All right, there we go. There we go. This graph has been built dynamically. It's already a kind of app, if you want, from a SPARQL query. And if we look very briefly at the source code here, all right, you see that there's a SPARQL query behind. It calls a JSON file that is provided dynamically by the SPARQL endpoint of the Publications Office, and a jQuery library builds the graph. So here is an example of already of a living example of an app that you can build through the data retrieved from the Publications Office. Now I come back to my presentation. Alright, now let's explore a little bit the data that we have. The first question would be, are you a machine or human being? And when I say machine, I mean a machine driver, developer, RSS reader. In this particular case, if you want to automatize the retrieving of data, I think the good way to start is the Sparkle endpoint of the seller. The seller is the internal word for our common repository, and you've got the URL of that Sparkle endpoint. You can build directly your Sparkle queries to retrieve information. But now, if you are more on the human being side, let's call it like that, you can go through the EU Law and Publications portal. It's publications.europa.eu, and you can already build your search and find your way into our collections in a more user-friendly way. So as I said earlier, the Sparkle endpoint of the seller can be used, but seller also contains an API with methods that will help you retrieve easily the requested content, like tree or branch notice of a work, all the identifiers of a document, the RDF and the XML formatted metadata of given resource, and much more. I will give you the links to the documentation after. It also contains methods to invoke the named authority list and EUR-Voc objects, so all the controlled vocabularies, the thesaurus that we have, and you can retrieve directly a dump, a concept, relatives, and much more. Now I'm going to briefly present publications.europa website. That is, if you want like a window on all the data, it helps you to find your way into the data. As you can see, here we go. Can you see my screen correctly? As you can see, we present the different collections that we have. We also present Open Data Portal and TED and EUR-Lex that have been presented this morning. You can, of course, search into the collections, into EU law or EU publications. You can, for instance, search for climate change, and it will search into that huge collection of data, the terms climate change, even in the very publication, in the PDF itself, and will show you all the results that you can refine with the facet search that you have here. Once you have built a query that is of interest for you, you can save it, create an RSS feed that can be very useful when you build your app, and of course be notified when a new publication according to your search arrive in the database. But we've got also some advanced tools, like the link data tab that you can see here. This is a link data wizard. It will help you to create your Sparkle queries. You can very easily find your way into the different metadata that we have. We've got only 8, I think, of them to remain very simple. But if you want to do more, to go deeper, you can use the Flint editor. It's like a Sparkle endpoint. It's an editor that helps you build your own queries to search into the database. And you've got samples that are very useful, I think. And here you launch, you submit your search, and we've got 0 results. Some documentation already. If you go in the footer of the website to Web Tools, and you go to Sparkle Queries, you will find 2 examples of the presentation, of my presentation today. This one is the actions for failure of a member state to fulfill obligations. So this is the Sparkle query that helped me to build the graph, and you can play that query into the Flint editor like this. You submit, and you've got already the result there. And those results have helped me to build my graph. So basically, I think that to build an app, that could be a nice idea to target some questions. Again, the idea behind is what I want to reveal from the data, and what I want to reveal could be the member states that have not fulfilled their obligations. That's one possible example, or have a timeline of all the legal acts as of 1952. That could be another example, and I want to display the result through a data visualization tool in a user-friendly way. Okay, coming back to the presentation. Okay, these are the core services of publications that EUR-EU website. I've already said a couple of words about it: the search, refining tools, and the personalized services, and the advanced services that we have just seen: link data wizard, the Flint editor, the alerts, and also some links between documents. Alright, so here you've got all the links to the documentation that I think is useful to build your app, from the sources of EU law, EU publications, and WHO collections. I take that the slides will be circulated to the participants, so you will have time to check them. You've got below simply the contact email of the publications office, but you can also use the contact form on publications.europa.eu. Okay, if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. I cannot hear you. Ah, okay.
Here we are. We're back. Thank you, Jean-Philippe. For the moment, there are no questions. You presented a lot of information that can be used and reused, so thank you. Which one could be a good reuse example that our participants could develop using what you show? Just show.
Yes, I think one of the main challenge about EU law is to build something easy to understand in a glance from a non-lawyer user, a normal user, citizen. So again, the examples that I've tried to build were a bit on that line. I wanted to show things that are easily understandable without having law expertise, you see? So basically, what are the main treaties, and when in the European history they've entered into force? That could be a nice graph to show.
And I was wondering about the EU vocabularies. What are the use that can be done with this? Because it's a treasure trove, actually. There are lots of useful tools. And this authority table, can you just give some more words about it?
Yeah, of course. Yes, maybe that's a very good question. The starting point would be to go to, not here, but your vocabulary that you can also see directly from our portal. So EUROVOC, and all the vocabulary. First, EUROVOC. EUROVOC is a thesaurus of about 6,000 terms that are used to tag the publications. So it's also a good way to build links between publications, because you can have a EUROVOC that is tagging an EU publication, a study for instance, but as well that is tagging related EU law. So that's the beauty of it. If you want, you can build links between different collections. Now, this is the list of all the main tables of controlled vocabularies that we have, and the corporate body, for your information, is used as the corporate author of publications. So if you see an author in our portal, it comes from that corporate body list, but you can see also the format, the type of documents. I've also put in my documentation slide a link to EUR-Lex with the different type of legislative acts, which I think is interesting if you want to know more about the type of data that you want to use.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'm answering to your question, but
yeah, because there is a lot of information and the users could be able to understand more easily the content which is
absolutely.
online. We have a question from a participant, and is asking, well, first, I read very interesting presentation, Jean-Philippe, thank you. With what frequency are the data generally updated?
It's every day. So when a new document arrives in the common repository, a new EU law or EU publications, the two main collections, it's updated every day. So it's as soon as they are ready. For general publications, a collection that I know a bit more, it can take a couple of hours for our teams to ingest them into the seller, technically speaking. So you see that it's quite quick and efficient. In other terms, if you have built a SPARQL query or query on the data, it can be updated every day when new documents arrive.
Thank you. The question continues, goes on. You can also read it if you want to. No, it's private. So Rafa is asking, I use bookmark my personal use of amount data are under Eurostat umbrella regarding energy and environment issues. Actually, I use bookmark pre-configured with reference table, countries, and years, and I need a bulk download tool. In the past, there were some initiatives. Do you have work on that under Open Data Initiative? Thank you, Rafael. Do we have work on that? Bulk download tool.
It doesn't ring me a bell, but from what I've presented, I would say that could be something.
At Eurostat.
Yes, that could be something. Also, an interesting use case would be to have an update, maybe through RSS, of documents related to EuroVoc terms. So again, with EuroVoc you can have, let's say, we can go through maybe that page, the browse by subject page. Okay. The browse by subject page is built on EuroVoc. So it's really a page where you can find information about EuroVoc terms. So I think the question was about energy or environment, can it be? So you could have environment and the subdomain environment policy and climate change. Why not? You launch the search. Okay. You can narrow your search in the collection that you're targeting. I don't know if your participant is interested in EU publications or EU law document, but it can be both anyway. And you saved this search. You need to be logged in, so you create an account. Yes, I was logged in before. I'm using my ECAS account, but you can log in with Twitter, Facebook, and your LinkedIn account into the portal. And of course, it's the same kind of account. You are registered, and you can save your searches. So I'm saving that search on climate change. All right, and I can already be alerted when new documents are coming, new publications, but also I can use the RSS feed. I can create the RSS feed to be also to use automated workflow. So that can maybe answer the question. Now I want to stress one thing at this stage. The publications portal is a work in progress. So project. So we are implementing new features, and some are still in, let's say, beta version. I prefer to saying it now because sometimes you may have, I'm not saying little bugs, but not what you expected. So it's a work in
anyway, we
progress.
are also open to suggestions. So if now we have an idea of a bulk download tool, why not? But apparently Eurostat could have, Raphael, this kind of tool. So there was a presentation last week, the webinar from Eurostat, and they will probably have the answer. So do not hesitate to go back to the slides and get in contact, in touch with the presenter from Eurostat, or get back to us. We will find out. Thank you, Jean-Philippe. Merci beaucoup.
My pleasure. Merci.
It was very interesting, and also the participants have written that it was interesting and useful. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Have a good day. Bye. And last but not least, as we announced before, is again another service managed in the EU Publications Office, and we go to CORDIS, and we have here our dear colleague, Carl Ferran. Floor is yours.
So, hello, good morning. Pleased to be here to present what CORDIS has on the EU Open Data Portal, mainly to give you a background of what is behind the data that you will find on the portal, and to give you a brief overview of what's there and what's possible. So if I get started, for those of you who might know CORDIS or might not know CORDIS, so historically it is where the Commission publishes its projects and research results, always around related to the Commission's research framework programs. So it's operated for the Commission by the Publications Office, and with our colleagues at the Publications Office, we're surrounded by lots of support for data, reuse, and this openness we have. So CORDIS has been around since 1990, and the databases are even older than that. So since the first framework program over 30 years ago to the current framework program, which is Horizon 2020, we have over 115,000 projects. And CORDIS has evolved over the years. Now we're getting back to the focus of disseminating the research results. So the core of that is our projects database. So the two parts of what you can find on CORDIS, the website, is what we call the data pillar. So this is really the public part of what the Commission has. And then we also rewrite and write about the project in 6 languages to make it easier to understand what the project was about. So with our results in brief articles, our results packs, results magazines, these publications, we're trying to reach enterprise and industry if there's new products, new technologies that they can pick up. Could be a project leads to more research, so scientific breakthroughs, and some of the projects are about policies, recommendations, guidelines. That's the type of information we have, and that's the type of projects which are funded by the European Union. There are things that are not on CORDIS, so just when you're looking for data sets that are on our website, what you don't find there is that there's a participant portal. It's also a Commission website, and this is upstream from before the projects publish anything. So it's where the calls for proposals exist, reference documents, proposals are submitted, the grants, the projects are managed themselves. And CORDIS is what happens after the project is running. On Europa and the rest of the Commission websites, you will find the information about policy, the themes, general public. And there are also things which you might be interested in from a researcher point of view, which are not actually held by the Commission. So the Commission doesn't hold the research data sets, it doesn't hold the scientific articles in journals or publications. So we can only point you to the links there. And certain parts of the research programs are not on CORDIS. They're available in different ways, like the Joint Research Center. They publish their own information separately, just in case you're looking for something which you don't find. So the CORDIS data comes from the Commission, which is organized in Directorate Generals. It works with executive agencies, joint undertakings, public-private partnerships. Our colleagues in Brussels collect all the information, put it into a data warehouse, and everything that is public, or that should be public, comes out on CORDIS. So what we try to be is that anything that the CORDIS can hold, which can be public, or should be public, we try and pull out and make it available. FP7, that's the framework program that is still running. The projects are still running, but the funding closed in 2014. The main information we have is about the projects, the organizations that participate in the projects, and the reports that they have submitted to the Commission. In Horizon 2020, it's similar, but we have more data. So we're about to publish deliverables and publications as well. Okay. So we have a question we've got is that I've mentioned what is not on CORDIS. How do you find the information that is out there? Well, the information which is private doesn't get published. So, for example, the proposals or the applications for grants which haven't succeeded, they're not published because they're confidential. They're from the applicants that made the proposal. That's not available. What is coming is maybe some data sets which could give some levels of participation, success rates for participation. The overview for funding which goes beyond EU research on Europa, there are some pages which point you to different programs. So COSME is a program about competitiveness and SMEs for enterprise. And on CORDIS we're trying to build up everything which is related to the research programs. This is just a slide, gives you an idea of what's happening behind the scenes. In the end, what we're trying to do is give you something that's easier to use, regardless of where it came from, if it came from an older system or the current system. So over the years on CORDIS, we try to present projects in a consistent way so you can compare them between framework programs. Behind the scenes, the legal basis is different, so sometimes the terms change. We try to simplify that for the public. When you're on CORDIS itself, you will see the project fact sheet, so the basic information about the project. And this is information that we try to extract into the data sets to make it easier to reuse. So this is an example of a project you would see on CORDIS. So you see its title, its date, its cost, how much money it got from the Commission, its funding background, the program, the funding scheme. The objective itself is what the project is trying to do. You'll see that this project has a report which was provided by the project. There was a resultant brief written by CORDIS in 6 languages to make it easier to understand. And as you scroll down the screen, you will see the participants, which companies or research organizations worked on this project. So from what's in the CORDIS database and repository, we put it all out as data sets on the Open Data Portal. FP7 and Horizon 2020 are the most popular ones because they're still running. They're active. We see they're very popular also in the Open Data Portal. There's a lot of interest. And basically what you get is lists of the projects. In a parallel list, you get the organizations, which you can cross. This is provided in XML, in CSV, and Excel formats. We also have FP1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 available there for the older programs. And you'll notice that the data quality is not quite the same. So this depends on what was collected by the Commission 10, 20, 30 years ago. But there are some advantages on the recent ones. For example, if you find an organization in the FP7 dataset, it has an identifier which is the same as Horizon 2020. And each organization will only exist once. So there are some big organizations which maybe have 1,000 projects. You will be able to cross them between those 2 programs. We also have a selection of data sets, what we call the reference data. So when you see the codes in the main data sets, you can look up the values for those codes, so the program or funding topic, the funding schemes, the types of organization. And this will allow you to cross the information as you need. So that's what we have now. Go in, have a look at those data sets, ask us any questions you have. What we're planning to do in the future. So for each organization, we have an address. You can yourself try to derive the geocodes, look it up through some API. What we plan to do is to generate the geocodes and store those in the database so that you don't have to look them up by yourself. The advantage of geocodes is you could then put projects on a map. So that's something we're going to do on CORDIS in the next few weeks, a way to browse through projects geographically. We want to make that a bit easier for you external users to use as well. We want to make sure we update it regularly, so at least the programs which are still changing, Horizon 2020, FP7, we aim to do it monthly. As the data gets enriched on CORDIS, we want to also make that available. So for example, for Horizon 2020, we're about to receive the deliverables for the projects to the Commission. We will list those. And the links to the publications. So if a project is published in a journal, in a conference proceedings, we'll provide links to those as well. A big job behind the scene is to classify everything by subject, by field of science. And we're using semantic technologies will allow us to automatically classify and to expose those subjects online. So that would allow to go through the projects according to the subject. If you're interested in physics or astrophysics and build down to that, that will give you a much better feeling of what the project was about. And we also want to make it possible to run custom extractions. So you say, here's my query, I want to get all of this out in CSV or all of this out in XML only for what I want. In the meantime, you go to the Open Data Portal, you take everything, and then you can slice out or remove the parts you really want. So that's what we've got in the pipeline. It's a very quick tour, but I hope it gives you an idea of what's available. The sort of reuse you could do, applications that could be done. What's probably most interesting, apart from seeing which country, which organizations got the money, there are reuse examples available. There's a website called Research Ranking, and they will tell you which companies, which organizations got the most money. To go further could be to cross the EU funding with maybe national funding. So you could compare, okay, if I have access to my national open data on what the Research Council is doing in my country, how does that compare with the money my country is getting from the EU? I know it's a big deal for Brexit, there's a lot of concern about funding. Well, you could compare, well, what would be the effects of Brexit on British science if there's no EU funding? Or what would the British government have to do to compensate for that funding?
Do you know if there's also good databases for each member state, or?
I don't know what's out there.
But at least for the big states there should be.
I think most member states try to make it open. There must be ways to find out, at least at a global level, what is funded nationally, and you can cross that in the data. We had one example that was tried out to cross the Eurostat information about research funding in the country, so the IRNI investment, and compare that with the funding at the European level. Or your GDP per capita, does that mean do rich countries attract more funding?
Yeah.
And what is your...
Attract or need?
Well, the richer countries might not need so much, but in the end the richer countries do attract more funding because they're more successful. So which countries could need more support to participate, where you could get the best response.
That's also an important point for the competition. So if you want to participate, you don't need to make a full app with every member state, with everything. You can start as a pilot project with one member state and show us that it works, that you can visualize it, and so on. And then we can see maybe after the competition how we can develop it further. So I think there are a lot of interesting points in it.
Yes, if you want to know, if you could pick up maybe the organizations in your country and see how they participate at the European level. We have a question about NAP showing the evolution of funding across framework programs per research area and per member state. I don't think anyone has done that yet, but with the data sets you could build something like that.
Yeah. And all the data is already in reusable format, so it should not be
no, yes, the XML, CSV and the Excel, you should be able to use it. There is a way within CORDIS, if you want the detail about a single project, a single item, if you look on the page, there is an XML option, and whatever you see on this page, like that data, that fact sheet I showed on the page, there's an XML version of that. With .xml at the end of the URL. You can dig deeper.
You can call it directly.
You can call it directly if you want to get the details.
That's great. Yeah. So you can really make a live application and call whatever you need.
You could just reuse CORDIS and rebuild your own CORDIS and give it a new look and feel if you wanted to.
Yeah. And answer a specific question.
Yes, if you want to dig deeper. So that's those are a few options we have. Yeah. So.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Carl. It was very, very interesting, and that was also the last one. So for the moment, it's all. The webinars are over. We hope you like them. We hope that you have found some inspiration to develop new apps, websites, or visualization tools, and use EU Open Data and make them more available to the bigger public. So thank you for attending. I remind you that this webinar is recorded, so will be uploaded on the webinars tool on this page, as you can see. And the PowerPoint presentations will also be all uploaded, so will be available. You can go back to them, read them, contact the speakers, contact the services, and even contact us if you want to know more and have more details. Another thing is that if a data set you are looking for is not available on the OP data portal, you have a contact point and there is a help desk, and by contacting them we will find, if it exists of course, the missing data set. So do not hesitate to just make a suggestion, suggest the data set which is missing, and we will find it for you. Now we invite you to register your proposal, to send book your spot in the Datathon of 16th of November by Sunday, 8th of October. So do not miss the deadline. And the week after, we will send to the pre-selected teams the notification. We also invite you all to participate to Brussels, to the final event. On the 16th of November, we are organizing a very nice event with speakers, a conference, and there will be the presentation of the project, and the jury will deliberate. There will be the ceremony, etc., and the winners will win a trip to Versailles and participate, and also present their project to the European Data Forum. In Versailles on 21st, 23rd of November. That's all. Thank you. This is all from the Publications Office. You can reuse also our banners, so you can use them on your website, on social media, or wherever to promote the event, to promote yourself if you participate to the event as a provider of data or as a participant. So here you can download the format you prefer and use it. From Paola, Pepe, it's all. Simon?
Thanks a lot.
Thanks and good luck. Bye.
Bye.